Hey guys, welcome to Raw TV, Real and Willing Television. I'm Rebecca Vargas.
And I'm Michael Steiner, and tonight we're with Cameron Hodge, author of By His Stripes, Memoirs of a College Student. It's a story of restoration from suicide and rape and unforgiveness into a new life with Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're going to be sitting down with Cameron on the couch to talk about her transformation from a life of hopelessness and insecurity to one of freedom and power through Jesus Christ. She now gets to speak to young people who have faced the same issues she has and bring them the hope of Jesus Christ.
And so just sit back, relax, and we'll be right back with Cameron Hodge.
Welcome back, and joining us is our guest, Cameron Hodge. Thank you so much for being here today. We really can't wait to talk to you about your life and what you've been through, but most importantly about your book, By His Stripes, Memoirs of a College Student. What inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me was seeing that a lot of young people are going through the same issues. When you talk to young people, you hear insecurity, or you hear, I don't like myself, things like that. So I wanted to, as a young person, write to young people to show them that they can change.
So can you tell us a little bit about these struggles and issues that you're talking about?
Oh, where do I
Start with
begin?
the childhood. What was your childhood like?
My childhood was pretty good. Like any child, I had issues. I dealt with a lot of anger and rage when I was younger. And I think a lot of that came from insecurity and, just not being honest with my parents or other people about the things that were going on with me, and especially with getting bullied and things like that. And so I dealt with, like I said, a lot of insecurity and anger. At a young age, I contemplated suicide and things like that because I thought that was the best way to go because I didn't love myself.
What got you to that point? I know suicide's so serious to get to the point where you actually you hate life so much that you just want to leave. You just don't even want to be here. What was the root of that in your life, you think?
So much. As I got older, when I was raped, but before that, just insecurity. Really just not liking myself, and it's strange to think that even at a young age you can get to the point where you feel like you're just worthless. And I think a lot of kids struggle with that. Young adults struggle with that because in some ways they're not affirmed enough, or they're not affirmed in the right way. You understand? So it's kind of almost easy to fall into that without somebody really watching.
Yeah.
You said you were bullied in high school. Can you tell us a little bit about that? We know a lot of our viewers struggle with that kind of thing, and it's a big issue now. Can you tell us about how you went through that and what that was like in your experience?
This started when I was younger. Kids would pick on me and say that I stunk, I was ugly, I was too black, my skin was too dark, things like that. And so, and in the book, I give one story where I was wearing like this really cute outfit. I thought it was cute. Yeah. And back then, you look at the styles like in the 80s and 90s and you're like, oh my goodness, what was going on? But I was wearing like this jumper outfit, and we went outside to play. And there was a little boy who started messing with me, started throwing dirt on my clothes and was telling me I was ugly, and you think like, how can kids do this? But they do it, and now it's getting even worse. But, and he actually ended up hitting me, like, yes.
What is going on in his head?
I was like, what in the world? Like, it was scary, and it's a longer story than that, but that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But it's just stuff like that, but then you don't say anything because you think nothing's gonna happen if you do say something, or if you do say something, then you're gonna be blamed, or it's gonna be your fault that this stuff happens to you. So then you don't say anything. Then you just end up harboring all of the anger and things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. You said something about, being raped. What age did that happen? That's such a traumatizing, life-changing, out of your control situation. Can you tell us about that experience and how you've dealt with that?
I was 16. I was 16, and it's funny because you really have to watch what you let people speak over your life. When I was 15, a year before I was raped, I was talking to someone, because by this time I had not been sexually active, and I was talking to an old friend of mine, and he said, I bet by the time you're 16,
Yeah.
you will have had sex. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait. And then right after I turned 16, yes, I was raped.
And how did that situation even happen? How did you handle it? Where were you that this occurred and it was out of your control?
Well, the person who raped me actually I used to work at McDonald's. I worked there for 8 years.
Yeah.
And he was actually a customer
Really?
that came in there and that I befriended.
Yeah.
And he was a little bit older than me, and we became friends. I went over to his house. He said other people were going to be there. It's in the book. He said other people were going to be there.
Yeah.
Other people didn't come.
And you were just kind of
there.
out of your control, and there's nothing you can do.
Yep.
And so how did that start to affect you after that? I mean, that's a huge event, and a lot of people take it in a whole bunch of different ways. How did that start to affect your life on top of the insecurities that you've already had?
Oh, wow. It was detrimental. It was crazy. Right after it happened, I didn't tell anybody. And for a while, I didn't tell anybody. And if I did say something about it, it was a watered-down version of what happened. So I never really told what happened because I was afraid of how people would look at me. Well, what were you doing going to a place with someone you didn't really know? Why would you let somebody do this? Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you? Why? And I don't know why.
Yeah. At times, did you think that maybe
Yeah.
it was, because I know that I've heard this from other girls, that maybe it was my fault that I was
Yes.
there?
Yes.
You know,
You feel
two
guilty.
girls that have faced that, what would you say? What would you say to them? Ones that are hiding it for reasons because they think, oh, they're going to think it was my fault, or maybe it was my fault. What would you give your advice? What would your advice be?
You need to tell somebody you can trust, to tell the raw truth to. And don't be afraid of how other people are going to react. I know one of the main things that really hurt me was seeing my parents' reaction. Because it's like I imagine my father crying because he wouldn't be able to be there. It's like I imagine my mother, like the stress and the guilt and the heaviness she would feel because she couldn't take that pain away from me. It was just too much to bear.
That's why you just hid it.
I couldn't deal with all that.
Yeah. Did you eventually tell someone, and how did you go in the recovery process from that point?
One of the things that I didn't do. God actually brought me a very, very good friend who kind of opened up to me about her struggle with being raped. And so it allowed me to open up and to be honest with her about what happened to me, and it was so refreshing to have somebody who understood what I was going through. It made it so much better.
Yeah.
Like, that's why confession is so crazily amazing, because it
Yes.
just makes stuff so much better when you have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
So
So to transition a little bit, you talk about in your book how you continue to have more struggles with your insecurity and stuff into college and stuff.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about how that happened? Because college is such a big
Yes.
transition time in there. Tell us
Yes.
about how that happened and eventually how the recovery process really started.
Well, one of the big things is dating.
Yeah.
That's everybody's number one thing, especially in college. And it was just so much. I didn't feel like I was pretty, because you on a college campus, you see all these other people and you're like, oh, I wish I looked like that, or I wish I was like that. And so I always thought there was something wrong with me. And so I would even go and try to use bleaching cream to make my skin lighter because I was told I was too dark. I was told I was too dark to date.
Wow.
Really? They're lying. That's ridiculous.
I was told that, and stuff like that. And so it's like you just begin to compare yourself to other people, especially in college.
Yeah, of course.
And I just didn't want to be me.
Right.
So how did you go about, where was that point that you realized, okay, I need Christ to take over my life and just transform me? What was that place that you reached?
There was one evening, I had a male friend come over, and he tried to force himself on me that night. And he stopped, I know it was God, because he just stopped. I was like, no, like, I don't want to do this. And I was crying, and he just stopped, and he was like, oh my goodness, Cammie, like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
He didn't even realize.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was like, and he got up and he like ran out of my apartment.
Wow.
And I just sat there and I cried and I cried and I cried. I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Because and up until that point, I had been cutting on my wrist and things like that. I would sit in the bed with a knife, just crazy stuff. I said, God, I can't do this. I can't do this. So after that night, I was like, I need you to take control, because I can't.
You said that you met a friend that had similar experiences. Tell us about how you managed to get plugged in more with other people and how that kind of helped you in your recovery process from all this.
Well, one thing with her specifically, she didn't sugarcoat stuff with me. Like, she was very honest and very raw. Like, Cammie, you need to get up and do better. And when I became saved, it was almost like I got convicted about my life. Like, I'm professing to love Jesus and that he's my everything, and you know how we sing those songs.
Yeah.
But it was like I wasn't letting him be everything, because I was still holding on to that stuff. And so when I saw her life and I saw how she lived, I was like, I got to do better. It was seeing that contrast between like the real thing and then just what I was doing.
So what does that look like to people that are watching, that are facing that, and they want to get out of that lifestyle and letting their past control their life? What steps do they need to take to move forward and to let go? How did you do that? What steps should they take?
Faith is very critical. So even if you don't physically see the change, believe that God can change your life and that he has. The Bible says that when we come into Christ, we're new creatures, and that the old has gone and the new has come. You have to believe that. So one of the things that I did was, it's like I plugged in regardless of how I felt. Because there were times I was like, this is not working.
I feel like going, I don't feel like doing
this is not working. But in having my friends there, as I, got more friends, there to, just really encourage me and say, you can still do it, keep going, keep going. I didn't feel like I was free from insecurity, but I was. And so I just had to walk in it.
That's awesome.
So towards the end of your college career, you've kind of, you got out of this, you're recovering and stuff. When did you start feeling God call on your life to do something about this, to help other people? Tell us about how God brought that into your life.
Well, like I said, just seeing other young adults going through the same thing, and then feeling the conviction that I had to do something about it. Like, it's not enough for you just to like have your freedom, and then you see all these other people here and you not do anything. That's selfish. That's like, we're called to be disciples.
Yeah.
And so I felt that conviction. So I was like, okay, well, what do I do?
Yeah, so it's almost like it's your testimony, like God, sometimes the pain you go through is so that you can help other people.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And we're going to be back in a few minutes, actually, to talk to Cameron a little bit more about her book. So stay tuned.
Before that love will give up on you, 'cause it has never been the kind of door that you could just walk through. And now you're so afraid and so unsure that a love will fill your life, but don't believe the love, 'cause not even for a minute. One day you will believe it, 'cause I'm here and I will never give up on you. Let my love start to feel it, and let your heart start to feel it. Oh, I will never give up on you. Let me ask a simple question. What are you looking for? Peace of mind, joy inside, or is it something more? 'Cause everything you need is waiting at the door. What are you waiting for? You don't have to search no more, 'cause not even for a minute. One day you will believe it, 'cause I'm here and I will never give up on you. Let my love start to feel it, and let your heart start to feel it. Oh, I will for you, always and forever. And I will be the one to hold your hand, 'cause I'm that kind of friend, and I'll never leave, no. Yeah. No, not even for a minute. One day you will believe it, 'cause I'm here, and I will never give up on you. Let my love start to fill it, and let your heart start to feel it. Oh, and I will never give up on you. I will never give up on you. Never give up on you.
Welcome back. We are with Cameron Hodge. And so tell us a little bit about when you started actually writing your book. Like where in your college career did it all start?
Well, I wrote it in between finishing undergrad and starting graduate school. So I graduated from UNCG in North Carolina in June of 2010. And then I started writing the book then. And then I started graduate school in August of 2010. And then the book was finished, the publishing process, everything was finished in December of 2010.
Oh, wow.
So
So it
yeah.
just happened right.
Yeah.
So how did you decide what you wanted to write? Because when you go into writing a book, you're like, okay, I have a story to tell, but how am I going to write it? How am I going to break it up?
Right.
So what was that process like?
It was very interesting. I asked God, like, well, what do you want me to write about? And he said, well, what have I done for you? So I was like, well, I just need to write about everything that God has done in it. And originally, I was going to stick with unforgiveness, but then it was like, God was showing me, like, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about this, you need to talk about this. And so it just kind of expanded to more than just that.
Yeah.
And so it was tough because he required me to be more detailed and more
Yeah, that's
direct
hard.
about certain things than I wanted to be. But, then again, it's not about me, so.
Yeah.
So how did you go about even getting it published? I mean, that's a big undertaking in itself. Tell
Yeah.
us about how God brought you through all that to get out this message.
It was crazy. I was looking for publishers and, just doing some research, and I found one, and I tried to raise the money to help with some of the cost, and then I did that, and then saved my own and did that, and then got it edited, sent it off to the publisher, and then just,
Yeah.
that was it.
So how did you break up the chapters? Because I've looked at it, and it's really interesting how you separated it so that you can tell us like the main points of each thing, so people can get a little idea of a summary of it.
That's pretty much it. I just took like the main issues that I've dealt with, like unforgiveness and purity and insecurity, and I just broke the book up like that and just went into detail about the things that I went through in those areas and kind of how Christ came in and changed that. Like with the subject about purity, I talk about how I tried to make myself pure, by doing things that make someone look pure, but that doesn't happen like that. It's Christ that does it. It's Christ that cleanses us. Right. So I would wear like purity rings and stuff like that. Just so you can see everything's okay with me. I'm pure, but that was just the front.
What would you say to girls because talking about the purity issue, that have been raped, they feel like they can't make themselves pure because it was done to them, and they have that feeling of insecurity that they can't do anything about it.
Right.
And now that they're going to get married, or how do you deal with that? How do you face that that area of it?
All of that is in Christ's control. Like it's a spiritual thing more than it is a physical thing. When the love of Christ really comes into your life, like that really completes you. Like it's crazy. It's crazy the kind of love that he has for us. And so you cannot base your cleanliness or your purity or anything like that on your own doing. You can't do it. It's Christ. So as long as you accept that Christ loves you and that by his stripes you are healed and you are cleansed, then you are.
Yeah.
It's the faith.
A lot of that process also has to do with forgiveness, which you talk a
Yes.
huge part about in your book. Can you tell us about how you dealt with forgiving all these people that did this stuff to you, and even how other people who are going through the same thing can forgive and move on?
Right. Well, I know one of the first things is that I saw that unforgiveness was poisoning me more than it was poisoning them. Because when you look at it, a lot of times, those people have moved on. They're done. And you're still dealing with the hurt.
Yeah, it doesn't
You know?
bother them.
They're not cutting on themselves. I was,
Right.
you know? So I had to come to that realization that this is hurting me more than it's hurting them, and that I did not want to be here. Because a lot of times when we go through struggles like that, we're comfortable in that state, you know? It's comfortable just not to forgive.
Yeah.
You know.
And there's a forgiveness aspect where they say, oh, forgive and forget, but you don't like God. We're not like God. We can't just forget. You don't just forget.
can't.
So how do
Yeah.
you face that?
Yeah.
How do you give that to God on a daily basis? Like, how do you do
Yes.
How do you deal with
Yes,
these
because
memories?
forgiveness is like, oh, I've forgiven everybody. I'm just going to go on my merry
But,
way.
like, you remember it.
Yeah, you do remember it. But God can give you the grace not to deal with the same hurt when you remember it. We may never forget some of those things, but you still don't have to deal with the sting of that, you know?
Right. So how did you go about speaking and talking to people? Where do you speak to young adults and young teens that face this?
Well, right now, I'm part of YTC. It's called Youth Taking Charge. It's an on-campus ministry at UNCG and A&T.
Okay.
UNCG is the University of North Carolina at Greensboro
Okay.
in North Carolina, and A&T. And so it's just like a time for young adults to get together, and we study the Bible. We do outreach and things like that. We have a men's group and a women's group. And so I do speak there, along with the other leaders there. I'm actually on the leadership team there. I'm the president currently
Wow.
on UNCG's campus. And so when we teach, we talk about these things. We're very real, so we don't just give you the Bible. We help you to make it applicable so that you can get over some of these issues.
Right.
So.
Can you tell us also about how you're into counseling now as a case manager for a nonprofit? Can you tell us about how you got involved with that, and what's that process like now, helping all these other women recover from the same struggles that you did?
It's actually, it's pretty crazy because I'm 23 years old. And so it's interesting how God works. And some of these women are, older than me and 40, 50, 30 years old. And I got into it because it was through AmeriCorps. And I don't know if you know what AmeriCorps is, but it's like a national service organization.
Okay.
And so through AmeriCorps, I got plugged into the nonprofit organization. And so I started working with the women like that.
That's awesome. Do you have any stories from that you were able to see transforming, God's transforming work in their lives through your story or through God through you?
I started working for them in September. So I've been there since September of last year. And just the stories that they have, it's incredible. And just to see that they love God too, and that they give him the glory for, getting over crack addiction and alcohol and abuse, things like that. It's crazy. I can't give specifics,
It's personal, yeah.
But I don't know how to explain it. It's just wild.
Yeah, well, in your book, I actually read a part where you talked about a miracle that you were involved in.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. This was when I worked at McDonald's, and I had a friend who had a baby who was sick with hives. And the doctors didn't know what to do about it. And so she was like, Cam, can you come pray for my baby? And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because at that time, I was very new. Well, not very new, but I was fairly new to just really walking this walk, right? So, not that I walk it perfectly now, but so she was like, Cam, just come pray for my child. We don't know what to do. The doctors don't know what to do. It's the worst case of hives that they've ever seen. The medicine's not working. The ointment's not working. Nothing's working. So I was like, okay. So,
huge.
yeah, I was like, and I was thinking I don't know if I should do this. What if I look crazy? I don't really know how to pray. You know how we do that? I don't know how to pray. Just talk.
Yeah.
But, so I ended up actually going to a Christian bookstore to get some anointing oil. I didn't really understand at that time what it was, but I was like, I've seen other people use it, so I was like, okay. Yeah. So I went and I got some, and then I went to their apartment. I went in there, the baby's father was there, just him, and then the child was on the couch. And so we knelt down by the couch and we laid our hands, well, we held hands and I laid my hands on the child. I was like, oh, wait, hold on. So I got my oil. So I just put some on his head and on his hands, and then so we held hands, and I just started praying for the child. And then after that, I just got up. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I got up, and then a couple of days later, the mother comes to me. She said, Kim, we've been trying to get in touch with you. And I was like, well, what's up? And she was like, he's healed. And I was like, okay.
That's
I was like, okay. She's like, no, he's healed. She said, my baby's father said that right after you left, he saw the hives start disappearing like that. Like right before his eyes, they just started disappearing. And then the child got up and just started playing like everything was okay and it was normal. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And so she and I, we were just like praising God, like right there in McDonald's. Like it was crazy. The customers were in there. We didn't care. We were just happy to see that God really moved in it. And it really touched me because to show me that God can use somebody like me, who was so insecure.
Yeah, it's just simple faith.
And that's how God works all the time, just people stepping out and believing him and working in him. And so can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on next, where God's taking you next? Any other books in the future? Or
Plans.
Tell us about where God's pulling you now.
Well, I'm working on a second book right now called The Gospel Through the Eyes of a College Student. Okay. And so I'm just going to talk more about things that I've seen God do, especially in the lives of other people, especially in the area of addiction. Because he's allowed me to see a lot. Like I've seen God heal people from crack addiction, not just aside from my job. I was close to somebody who struggled with crack. I was there with her. Yeah. I was going through the struggle with her, and I saw God deliver her where she has no taste for it, and saved her whole family. So like it's crazy, and people need to hear this. So I'll be doing that, finishing up my master's degree.
Oh, what are you getting your master's in?
Public administration.
Okay. That's awesome.
So, yeah.
And do you have any plans to go anywhere and share your story with maybe a high school, any conventions, organizations? Have you looked into that and doing that? Because your story, really is incredible and inspiring.
Yes, I do a little bit of that now. I've just started, so it's just all fairly new. But yes, I definitely want to do that.
That would be awesome.
That's awesome.
You definitely should.
Yeah.
Anything else?
So
we know a lot about you now at this point. Where can we find out more about your book?
You can go to my website. It's www.cameronhodge.com.
Okay.
You can go there, or you can go to www.westbowpress.com.
Okay.
And that's where you can buy the book.
Well, Cameron, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing us your story. It's been exciting. We're so happy for what God's brought you through and what God's going to continue to do.
I know, and this book honestly is just an inspiration, and it really brings hope to those that are facing this. And if anyone's watching and you are struggling with unforgiveness and you're struggling with feeling like you can't tell anyone if you have struggled with rape or have been a victim of that there is hope, and you need to reach out to someone and tell someone, because you can recover from this and you can start again, and your life means something. So, as always, don't forget to live it raw.